Next on AM 1480 WLEA, the Newsmaker Show. Here's Brian O'Neill.
And glad to have with us on our live line this morning, Steuben County Republican Chairman Joe Sempolinski. Joe Sempolinski, thanks for coming on.
It's always a pleasure, Brian. How are you doing?
Doing well. I have so many questions for you today. Let's start. I believe one thing you wanted to talk about was the petition objection with the Steuben County Democrat Randy Weaver petition situation.
Yeah, I know that there has been some consternation. I know that my counterpart, former Mayor Hogan, wasn't happy with the challenge, but we have rules, and there's certain rules that you have to follow to get on the ballot, and you have to fill out the paperwork correctly. And in some cases, with Mr. Weaver's petition, certain pages, the top of the page wasn't filled out at all. He printed the template and didn't fill in what party he was a member of, didn't fill in the date of the election he was running for. So it was pretty basic stuff that would void pretty much any legal document. There was a couple of folks that signed that didn't even live in the city of Cornell, aren't eligible to vote in this election. That threw a couple of signatures out. So one thing that also, and I listened to Sean on your show, and one thing he didn't mention was the state legislature, just prior to when the petitions were filed, lowered the requirement to make it, for just this year, to make it slightly easier to get on the ballot, because there was a change in petition time. Usually we do petitions in the past, we did them in the summertime, and they moved it to the spring going forward. And since that was a last-minute change, they lowered the requirement 25%. And Randy still didn't have enough signatures, even at the lower number, that were valid and didn't have problems with them. So this was, and I've looked at the paperwork, it was very, very sloppy. And we have to follow the rules. The Republicans have to follow the rules. The Democrats have to follow the rules. Everybody has to follow the rules. And it was commented also by the former mayor that we only went after Randy's petitions like this was some sort of personal thing. Couldn't be further from the truth. When petitions are filed, both parties generally will review the petitions on the other side, see who signs the other side, see how many petitions they got, what's the strength of their candidacy, is the paperwork in order, is it valid? And we don't make a habit of just willy-nilly challenging petitions. We make a habit of challenging petitions where there's clear deficiencies. And in this case, there was clear deficiencies. And the Board of Elections, which is a bipartisan agency, it's two commissioners, one Republican, one Democrat, agreed that these were they didn't follow the rules to the degree to get enough valid signatures. Randy needed 53 valid Democrat signatures. He didn't have enough. So if he wants to move forward with an independent candidacy, that is his right, and we have a process for that. And he will be able to file those petitions for the end of this month, and he can continue his candidacy that way. But I would emphasize these rules are not rules that just Republicans use against Democrats. These are rules that apply to everyone. Our candidates had to follow those rules, Democrat candidates had to follow those rules, and third-party and independent candidates have to follow those rules. They're pretty basic.
Talking with Steuben County Republican Chairman Joe Sempolinski. Joe, there's a battle going on for the New York State Republican chairmanship position. Ed Cox is being challenged by Erie County Republican Chair Nick Langworthy, and you've given your support to Langworthy. Wonder what's the latest there?
Yeah, so we're in this process. It's at this point sort of a tit for tat. One candidate will roll out one county chairman, the other candidate will roll out one of his county chairmen, and it's a weighted vote based on the number of votes cast on the Republican line in each county, and it'll happen in July is when the actual selection meeting will take place, because it has to happen after the primary for legal reasons. So we will have that election. And at the moment, as I said, these endorsements are being rolled out. Most of the upstate folks are supporting Langworthy. Not all. There are a couple upstate counties supporting Ed. And downstate, Ed's got some serious support, but so does Nick. Nick has two of the boroughs of New York City that have already come out for him, which is a big deal for a Buffalo-based candidate to have Queens and Staten Island supporting him. So I think at the end of the day, Nick is going to win. And for me, it's nothing personal. Ed Cox is a super nice guy. He's literally one of the nicest people I know. But it comes down to results. We haven't won a single statewide race while Ed has been chairman. That's 10 years. He's been chairman for 10 years, so he's had a fair crack at it. And we haven't won a statewide race at all since 2002. We haven't elected a new statewide Republican in this state since 1994, because 2002 was a re-election of the sitting governor, Governor Pataki. So 1994, when I was 11 years old, was the last time that we as a Republican Party put a new candidate into office. That year we were able to elect the Attorney General and the governor. We have seen, Brian, this year what happens when Republicans aren't competitive in elections. We've seen extreme policies coming out of Albany, and that's because we aren't competitive in the governor's races and because we lost the state Senate. We had control of the state Senate for most of the last several decades, and now we have lost control of that by a fairly significant margin. That's not success. That's the opposite of success. That's failure. And like I said, Ed is a super nice guy. I like Ed Cox, but 10 years is a very long time. I think it's time for a new generation of leadership, some new energy, some new perspective. Nick brings that to the table, and I'm really proud to support Nick, and I can speak very confidently that the state committee people that are from Steuben County, the local elected officials that are from Steuben County, the rank and file committee people from Steuben County, we're very unified in that. This is not something where we have a lot of division within our county. The Steuben Republican Party is really Nick Langworthy territory. He was in Hornell for Lincoln Day. He was one of the speakers at the Lincoln Day dinner this year. Did a great job and was very well received. And actually, when they sent out the press release with my endorsement, they attached to it the picture of Nick at Lincoln Day with myself and Mayor Buckley standing next to him, and that was the picture they used. So it was a Hornell picture that got used for the press release that went out with my endorsement of Mr. Langworthy.
Talking with Steuben County Republican Chairman Joe Sempolinski. Joe, back to the and not trying to poke holes in your argument. You mentioned how long it had been since Ed Cox had any good victories. Is it possible in a state like New York, which is so heavily Democratic, except for parts of upstate, is it possible for them to have good statewide victories under anyone? And again, I'm not trying to deflate your argument.
No, I understand where you're coming from, and I would say yes, it is, and for two very important reasons. One, we've seen it in other states. There are Republican governors in Massachusetts. There's Republican governors in Maryland. There are other Democrat-leaning states where we have had the Republican Party has had success at the statewide level, so we know it can be done. But also, sort of on a deeper level, it's a fundamental choice. Do you choose to say, all right, we can't win at the statewide level, we'll sort of just manage failure and manage our losses and fight at the margins, and that's one strategy. Or do you say, no, we're going to do everything we can to try and win again and go into it trying to succeed? And I would say both Ed and Nick are in that camp where they want to try and succeed. They're not about managing failure. They're about succeeding. So that's good. They're both in that philosophical camp. But Ed has had 3 cycles to have cracks at it. Nick brings a fresh perspective. And also I am attracted to a candidate who is from upstate. Nick is from Buffalo. I think he was born originally in actually Cattaraugus County in the southern tier. So he understands what life is like in western New York, southern tier, central New York, and I think that's something that attracts me to his candidacy because he's going to value this area of the state, which, as you just said, is the Republican base. You have to do really, really well in rural New York, and then try and work on the margins, bring them up in the cities, and especially the suburbs, the downstate suburbs. So I say, yeah, we can win, and we must try to win for the good of the future of the state of New York.
Going to take a quick break, then check the weather, then we'll be back with Steuben County Republican Chairman Joe Sempolinski. Going to ask Joe what he thinks of Congressman Tom Reed saying about the Democrat leadership in Washington being afraid of a Trump success. Stay with us.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. That's why 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
Try ZipRecruiter now for free by going to ZipRecruiter.com/search. That's ZipRecruiter.com/search.
It's happening to you every night. One snores and the other can't sleep. But now, there is a quick and easy-to-use solution. A natural solution. Snore Stop, the #1 selling anti-snoring medicine in the U.S.
Thank you, Snore Stop. You saved my marriage.
It's time to try Snore Stop and make every night a better night for both of you. Spray or tablets are available today at Rite Aid and CVS or online at snorestop.com.
Checking in now with meteorologist Rob Carolyn. Rob, how's it looking for today?
A little bit drippy out there this morning, Brian. We've got some rain sliding through the area that's mainly passing south of the thruway. Kind of a wild morning this morning. We're in the southern tier between 55 and 60 degrees, and they've had some snow this morning in Saranac Lake in the Adirondacks, where it's between 35 and 40. That's because we have a frontal boundary trying to push warmer air into the region, and then the cold air up in Canada is trying to hold that back. And that's why we've got the clouds and the stagnant weather, and I really don't see a whole lot of changing through Saturday, unfortunately. There will be some showers out there, particularly this morning. We're 65 to 70. Sunrise this morning was at 6:03. It'll set tonight at 8:11. A few showers are possible overnight. Those will be 50 to 55. Not much better for tomorrow. The clouds, the showers, the thunderstorms, they continue to hang around, 65 to 70. Showers end tomorrow evening. Lows will be 45 to 50. Then we're cloudy Saturday with some rain in the afternoon, Brian, 60. If we're going to see any sunshine this weekend, it will be during the day on Sunday.
Talking with Steuben County Republican Chairman Joe Sempolinski live on the Newsmaker show this morning. Want to play a little audio from Congressman Tom Reed's press call from the other day. This is kind of interesting. Reed said the Democrats in Congress have admitted to him privately that the leadership in Washington on the Democrat side is afraid of Trump having any success.
I hope there is positive movement into substantively working together as we are a loud voice for problem solving, that these guys can get in a room and agree that we should put the American people's interest first, especially when it comes to things like infrastructure, which is my understanding of the meeting that they're having over there today about, and set aside the politicking and get something done. And my concern, and I've heard it repeatedly now here in the halls of Congress, that my Democratic colleagues say that the leadership and a lot of the Democratic members are just very afraid of giving President Trump a win, quote unquote, a win, because of the political calculation being made that would hurt them politically. That being said, if that's what your focus is politics, then I'm afraid we're going to get more of the same here of gridlock.
Joe Sempolinski.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of that goes on in Washington, D.C., and I think the congressman is right that we elect people like him and other members of the House and Senate and the President to solve big problems. And he points to infrastructure. That's certainly one where you would think that you could overcome the partisan divide. There's not a ton terribly ideological about building roads and making sure that we have the ability for folks to get their goods to market. And if you have a portion of the Democratic Party that is saying, ooh, wait a minute, I don't want to solve that problem because that's going to make Donald Trump look good, or I don't want to feel good or talk positively that the economy's doing well because that's going to make Donald Trump look good, well, that means you've just switched into politics 24/7. And politics has its place. We have elections because we want to have people have a say in their leadership, and that's, in my opinion, the best way to run a government is to have a democratic republic. But at a certain point, you'd say, all right, that's done. We picked who's going to be in the House and the Senate and the President, and now we're going to work. and we're going to solve problems. And I would hope that there's enough members of the Democratic Party to look past their obsession with Donald Trump. But when I see things like yesterday with their refusal to sort of just let the Mueller thing go now that it's done, I get concerned. Where you have a certain portion of the Democratic Party, especially those folks running for president, that continually want to seems to me like they want to undo the 2016 election or make it seem illegitimate in some way and use that for political purposes as opposed to saying, all right, Donald Trump's president, you got a 4-year term, we got to work with him, and let's find a way to improve infrastructure, to improve the economy, to find some sort of common ground on things like healthcare and immigration where we can have a consensus on some areas of policy. That's what we should be doing. And so I would agree with the sentiments of the congressman that we need to be solving problems, and certainly that's been his focus in Washington, D.C.
Joe Sempolinski, you mentioned in segment 1 how far left the New York State Democratic Party has gone. Just thinking of proposed legislation this week of forbidding criminal background checks for potential employees in businesses, or giving illegals driver's licenses. What do you make of this? These two pieces of legislation that's popping up this week in Albany?
Yeah, the one that's sort of a new one that I'm just sort of hearing about recently is this background check one. I find that particularly concerning. Just my initial thoughts on that. My day job, because I don't get paid to be the county chairman, is I work in a school. I'm an administrator at a private school, and when I got hired, they did a background check on me, and they made sure that I was somebody that was safe to be around kids. And we do that with every single person that works in our school, because the last thing we want to do is hire somebody that has something in their background that's going to make them a danger to students. And that doesn't just apply to private schools. You have a lot of businesses where people are working with children or vulnerable people, or there's a lot of money changing hands, or whatever it might be. And you want to be able to go into a hiring process with eyes wide open. Now, I'm all about redemption. I think people who have a criminal background should not be excluded from work, because that's only going to put them back into the same situation they were in, that caused them to make bad choices of their own free will. So we got to make sure that there's pathways for people that want to do the right thing and want to redeem themselves coming out of incarceration to do so. But employers have a right to go in eyes wide open and say, all right, is this particular job suited to a particular person? And as I said, somebody that works in a school, we really want to make sure that we our school is in place to educate students, but our number one priority is the safety of those students while they're here. And I can imagine a lot of scenarios where you might have people that have a particular criminal conviction. You don't want them around kids.
Yeah, and makes you wonder, would there be a way around that? For example, and I don't know how the legislation's being written exactly, but the only way around that I can think of is the media publishing arrest reports. But who knows? Maybe it would become illegal for you to even do a Google search on somebody to see what pops up and type in their name. So it'd be interesting to see how that works out. Talking to Steuben County Republican Chairman Joe Sempolinski. Joe, there have not been a whole lot of back and forth lately between Governor Andrew Cuomo and Congressman Tom Reed. In fact, the congressman had some words of praise a couple of weeks ago for Governor Andrew Cuomo for compromising on a certain issue. I forget what that was. But if Nick Langworthy gets the state GOP chairmanship, how do you see things going in terms of dialogue with Governor Andrew Cuomo?
Well, the governor is not the easiest person to work with, and I would think that if you had a Democrat on here, some of them would maybe not say it publicly, but they'd probably say it privately. The governor likes to have things his way. So I think a lot of the working with Andrew Cuomo, it has to be Andrew Cuomo being willing to work with Republicans, being to work with Democrats that disagree with him, and not making everything my way or the highway.
On that topic, have you ever seen how the TV show, and maybe this seems like a silly comment to some, but have you ever seen how the TV show Blue Bloods portrays Governor Andrew Cuomo?
I have, we've had this discussion. I think you brought it up off air one time when we were talking about it, and I have not seen
the
it
guy
myself,
looks like him, and he's. There was
Yeah.
just an episode on the other night. He does not. That governor character for New York State does not compromise.
Right. Yeah. They sort of portray the caricature of the governor, and we can, this is a state that has tens of millions of people. And has a lot of different perspectives. So if you're going to go into something saying, this is going to be my way, in a state like New York, I don't know how successful you're going to be. Now, as far as Nick is concerned, Nick's running for a partisan position. He's going to be the state chairman. So it's going to be his job to find a good candidate and help put together a candidacy for a good candidate to defeat the governor in 2022. And so I don't know how friendly their relationship is going to be. But I would hope when it comes to the governing side of things that he starts to be a little bit more receptive to people who disagree with him as opposed to just steamrolling over them.
And final question, down to about 60 seconds for our Allegheny County listeners there. The race for the Kathy Young State Senate seat between Chautauqua County Executive George Borrello and Allegheny County Legislative Chairman Kurt Cradle. Any thoughts on that race?
Yeah, both of those two gentlemen you mentioned are good men. I'm personal friends with both of them. I've known both of them for years, and they're either one, Kurt or George, either one would be a really good senator. So I am neutral in that, and whoever wins, I am looking forward to doing whatever I can from Steuben County. Obviously, we don't go into that district, but anything I can to help the nominee to hold that Senate seat for the Republicans. Borrello and Crandall, either one would be a great senator. You can't go wrong. Vote for the person of your personal preference.
Steuben County GOP Chair Joe Sempolinski, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah, I'm always happy to be here. This is always fun. I always enjoy it, and thanks for what you do keeping everybody informed in the Hornell area.